And welcome to day 4 of uh, FDP on additive manufacturing from 3D printing to factory floor. The session speaker will be Professor Abhay Kumar Madhusudan Kute from Department of Mechanical Engineering, VNIT Nagpur. The title for the session will be Innovation in Class 3 Medical Devices Using Additive Manufacturing for Creating Ecosystem for Startups. About Professor Kute is currently associated with Department of Mechanical Engineering and also acting as head of CAD/CAM Center at Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology, VNIT Nagpur. Professor Abhay began his career in 1986 after Bachelor of Engineering from Government College of Engineering, Amravati, India by joining Hindustan Aeronautical Limited (HAL) Nasik. He obtained his MTech from IIT Roorkee and joined Birla Consultancy Service as senior software engineer. He left BICS and joined VNIT in 1993. Further, he earned his PhD in 2001. His research work is focused in the area of rapid prototyping and layered manufacturing. He has earned patent for such work undertaken by him. He has published more than 100 research articles that include peer-reviewed journals, conferences, and book chapters. He has guided 12 PhD scholars and 22 MTech and 13 BTech theses. He is also reviewer of 5 international journals. He has organized 20 plus technical events and delivered around 50 plus talks across the globe. He is pioneer in establishing 2 student-based startup in additive manufacturing. With this short note, I request Professor Kute to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Sure. So thank you, Dr. Dinesh, for the nice introduction. And let me share my screen. I don't have the uh, authority for sharing the screen. Can I just, yeah, and the one more point I would like to just ask Dr.
Yes, sir.
Dinesh before I
Yes, sir.
start. Like
Yeah.
I'm having one 3 minutes video clip also.
Yeah.
So is there anything I had to do it at the sharing or anywhere before because
No, sir.
everyone should
You can
see.
direct. It is there embedded in PPT, right, sir?
Okay, no
You
problem.
can
Yes,
play.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure,
You can play it
sure,
directly.
no problem. So we'll just
Okay.
check when I learn that
Yeah.
that everyone can see that.
Yeah.
So
Sure,
can you
sure.
see my slide now?
Yeah, I could see your screen right now, sir.
Yeah, sure, very nice. So I'm just putting it in a presentation mode now.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, the Thanks to NIT Srinagar for inviting me in this FTP as an expert lecture. It's always fun to get associated with NIT Srinagar. This is not the first time, but I 2, 3 times I delivered the lecture in the FTP arranged by NIT Srinagar. But this time, the topic which I have selected or the title of my talk is somewhat bit complex because I have written class 3 medical devices in that. I have written the AM also in that. And the top of it is that I have also written about the startup. So it's a bit complex. But let me tell you that this is where exactly we are focusing our attention on. And it will be my pleasure to discuss with the participant, like how they rather look at this type of the use of additive manufacturing, or we call it as a 3D. So if you look at the uh, pictures, I've shown the picture of the BNIT at night, how uh, it looks like, and then the CARCAM Center, which is that center where we will be all working in the area of CAD and CAM, and the 2 major projects like the Smart Foundry and Biomedical Engineering Technology Innovation Center called PETI, we are now presently working. So it's my pleasure to tell you about the CARCAM Center facilities, that the facilities that we do have at CARCAM centers, uh, the state of the art machinery called EDM, ECM, and all that. But I'll be more interested in just focusing your attention on the 2 FDP printers that we do have and the 3D bioplotter that we do have. This 3D bioplotter is actually the installation which is second in India when we have installed it. One first is in IIT Kharagpur and second one is the Now, as I heard that it is now being procured in at Hyderabad, as in Bangalore and some other institute also. But that's what actually the extension of the 3D printing we always talk about. So, based on that, I just written the agenda, the outline of my present talk with the introduction. Number two, no metallic medical implant. Number three, byproduct an extension of the 3D printer. Then four, what are our startup success stories? And finally, the conclusion. So, this where exactly I would like to start my talk from the introduction. So, in the introduction itself, I'll have to introduce about all these things together, that the class 3 medical devices, then the additive manufacturing and all these things together. So, the first thing is about a class 3 medical devices. This is what we generally call as a medical implant. So if you look at the figure at the right, where I can just showing you the cursor, the class 1, class 2, and class 3, you yourself can very easily see that. The class 1, they are not very risky devices. Class 2 is intermediary between the class 1 and class 3. But the class 3, which actually goes inside the patient body, and that's why they are to be handled very, very carefully. Now, these class 3 devices, which are generally medical implants, or maybe any device that goes inside the body of the patient. So I'm just showing you here the picture of the various medical implants, especially in the orthopedic side that we use it, and where we as a mechanical engineer find is more interest. Why? Because they are all made of metal. And that's why we say that metallic medical implant. Okay. So they are all used in the medical domain. So if you look at the implant like the hip implant or the knee implant, I think many of you must be aware of. They are used extensively nowadays, and many patients are treated with this implantation by these particular implants. Especially the hip implant is more important. The reason for that is the hip implant, the mobility of the patient also gets affected, and that's why the we have to be more careful, and we have to see that the hip implant is used to see that the patient is mobile. Now, but the interesting part about this medical implant is that the most of the implants are imported, and let me show you the data. Like the medical devices imports in the last 5 years, if you look at the figures in uh, number, and that too in crores. So it is continuously increasing. From 2014 to 2019, so it has increased from 23,000 crores to now 38,000. This is very disturbing. There is a lot of challenge in rather getting this particular issue solved. And when you look into the another uh, table where the categories and the percentage of the devices that have been imported, so you'll find out that though the electronics and equipment contributes to 66%, but the implants, which we generally call as medical implant, they also contribute a lot, around 7%. So we'll have to be very, very careful that how this thing can be rather taken care. The one of the point which I would like to focus the attention on, that the standard implant, that is what we generally talk about. Now, the standard implants, there we always face the problem. And what are the problem associated with the standard implants when we look it from the implants developed from the developed country? There is a stiff competition. Now they are selling the implants all over the world. And now the Indian company, which actually enters into this market, find it difficult to sustain. And therefore, you will find that many companies are not at all even working on the medical implants. Though they have the expertise, though they can do it, but ultimately this competition is so steep that they feel that, okay, if it is imported, better let that part be in the market. And the disadvantage of this mentality is that the doctors, they are forced to use the imported implant. And when they use that particular implant in the patient body, they develop confidence in that particular implant. And ultimately what happens, like think of a situation in any hospital that the doctor just asking the uh, patient or maybe the patient relative that which implant to be fitted into the patient body, imported or the Indian. You know, what the patient relatives will say or what the patient will say himself. He will say, sir, whatever you feel, whatever the doctor feels. So ultimately, because the doctor is having the more and more confidence developed because of the use of the imported implants in many cases, he will say that, okay, imported implant is better. Even if you have to charge more, doesn't matter. But I have the experience in that, and therefore better use the imported. And this continues. This is a vicious cycle which continues. Now, this we need to rather look it very carefully. Another important point, which is very crucial also, is about the what is called as the innovation in the medical plans or innovation in the medical devices. Now look at the what are the how many patents are filed as far as the medical device sector is concerned. Now, good number of patents figure is given there. USA 41% and 4%, 5% Germany, Europe 9%. And you find that India 17%. Oh, great. But remember there, if you look at that figure, the last sentence which I have mentioned there, the figure depicts dominant IP fillings of about 80% of the total by the foreign applicants. So even if the more and more patents are filed in Indian Patent Office for in under the under the medical devices, you'll find that 80% of the patent filed are by the foreign applicants. So ultimately, the part is developed, designed in foreign country by the foreigner, and they would like to tap the market in India by their product, by using the patent in the Indian patent office. So what I would like to tell you is that more and more innovation is also required in case of these medical implants, especially these class 3 devices. Remember, we are focusing on the class 3 devices, remember. So one of the very interesting uh, rather the technique which all of us now know very well is the additive manufacturing, or we call it as a 3D printing. This is the self-explanatory figure. I think everybody is aware of this, and there is no need to talk more about it. And many expert people, they are also working closely on, they are delivering lecture on this. But if you look at this is a very simple thing that if you can get a CAD file, just make an STL file and send it to the RP machine. The RP machine will give you the physical product. Now, I hope all of you are already aware of that. It is not only getting a physical product from the CAD file, but minimum human intervention and minimum tools. These are the rather important feature of the 3D printing. So you need hopefully no tool and minimum human intervention. And because of that, 3D printing is catching up a lot of interest. More the human intervention, then that means there are more mistakes by the human, and more the tools again that may lead to some defective part. So all these things is these two are also very important when you look at the 3D printing. The another interesting point about the 3D printing is that the association of the rapid prototyping with the computer tomography, which we call as the CT. Now, CT scan machine, I hope all of us are already aware of. This computer tomography and rapid prototyping, they work on the same principle. Because they say that a computer tomography, it is the slicing. And in rapid prototyping, they say it is a layering. So you can actually uh, exchange the data from the CT scan machine to the rapid prototyping machine. And that is what is, I hope many of you people must be aware of, that there is a software called Mimics, and good number of medical imaging softwares are available. I'm not only talking about the names, but any medical imaging software where you'll find that the DICOM file, which is used in case of a CT scan, can be converted into the STL file by using such software. And this data, that means you can say the data that you obtain from the computer tomography, that can be used as a data for the rapid prototyping machine. And what is an advantage? The advantage is that you can straight away get a medical model from the rapid prototyping machine or from the 3D printer. So let me show you this interesting figure, which actually talks about how this medical model is used for implant manufacturing. So remember here, this is an interesting figure where you can see that the data from the patient, you can take it from the CT scan data, you can take it, convert it using the software to the STL data, that feed it to the machine, and machine will give you the medical model. I'm just showing you the model of a femur bone that we have got it by taking the CT scan machine. And you use any manufacturing process based on the model that you have and get the metallic part. And here I'm just showing you the manufacturing under that is casting. And you can see the last one, the figure, which you can see it where I'm just showing my cursor. You'll find that this particular part we have actually fabricated by using that as a medical model in VNIT. And that's the first metallic part that we have fabricated using the casting methodology, rapid prototyping, CT scan machine data, and all that in 2006. And this actually opens a lot of avenues for us as far as the research is concerned. So how exactly it has actually helped us? Then when you look at the layer manufacturing or the additive manufacturing all together, then you will find that there are two applications. One is engineering application, another one is the medical application. So as far as the engineering application is concerned, I think many of the speakers, they must be talking about like how the innovative design and manufacturing is possible, even pattern making, especially in case of the foundries, modern foundries, you can get the pattern making, even die design. All these things is possible by using this layer manufacturing approach. But my interest is to indicate you about the medical application. Now you can see the medical application that is being shown by the blue arrows. And what you'll find that one of the application is medical model and mock surgery. Yes, it is used extensively. That they always say that the surgical planning is most
Hello? Sir, I think something went wrong in the system.
model, medical model of a diseased organ, maybe in the rapid proto by using the rapid prototyping and all that, you'll find that they can get the mock surgery done. And if the mock surgery is done, they will develop a lot of confidence, and ultimately the surgery will be 100% successful. Now, the two more things which are also shown under the medical application is of more interest to us. One is implant design, another one is implant manufacturing. Now, remember here, when I say implant design, that means developing the implant. Now, that's not the standard implant which I just talked about, but it is the what is called as a customized implant. And I'm going to talk about it soon. But what is important for me to tell you is that can we design the implant by using the rapid prototyping or the 3D printing? The answer to that is yes. And remember here, I'm just showing there the clay model. I'm going to rather tell you about that case study also very soon. But what is important for me to tell you that design of the implant, design of the product, it's like a design of a product is very much possible. And that is one of the, you can say, major advantage of the layer manufacture or manufacturing or the additive manufacturing in medical domain. Implant manufacturing, yes, it is possible to get the manufacturing of this implant, which you can design, or even the standard implants also. So now let me tell you about these implants now. It's not only the standard implant, but we have to also look at the customized implant. That means the implant which is designed and developed to be implanted in the patient, looking at the patient specific data. So standard implants are fitted as a general product in in any patient, but customized implant is developed only for that. It is designed and developed only for that patient, as I already mentioned to you, taking the anatomical data of that patient. And such type of the implant is very important, because that's the need of an hour, and I'm going to talk about it very soon. Now, about the standard implant, I just told you before that there is a stiff competition with manufacturers from the developed country. And what we need to look at, as I already mentioned to you, such ecosystem is required to be created in India, where slowly the standard implants will be manufactured in India. If that is done, then maybe we will be achieving most of the our target. Otherwise, I told you just at the beginning of my talk, only relying on the things which are possible to get it from the developed country, that is not going to solve our problem. And we'll have to see that the ecosystem needs to be developed. Now, can we think of developing this ecosystem based on the 3D printing? Answer is yes, it is possible. And what we need to look at, I should say that, can we think of some customization in the standard implant also? I'm going to talk about the custom implant from a different perspective. But when I say that, can we think of the customization in the standard implant? It actually means something typical. What is that? The hip implant. When you look at the hip implant, I am not showing any figure here as a separate figure. But you look at this hip implant, which is called as the hip stem or the femoral head and all that. Now, this implant, it has the certain parameters defined as far as the standard implant is concerned. So, for example, they talk about the neck shaft. That means you can see, I think, roughly that angle, which is, though it is very well defined, that the angle that makes with the central line of the stem and the as from passing to the center of the femoral head and all that. So that angle, neck shaft angle, it varies from patient to patient. And the standard implants generally are designed and fabricated taking the data from the Western population. So does it mean that the Western population data is different than the Asian population and maybe the African population? Answer to that is yes, very much. And we have even the case study where we have actually measured the neck shaft angle of the 220 patients in and around central India, because we are located at Nagpur. So what I have seen is that there is a tremendous variation of the neck shaft angle. It is from say 140 to 122. A lot of patients, they have their neck shaft angle varying between this particular range. So can we fit, or rather can we think of the standard implant, which is a hip implant, but with the suiting to the patient's anatomy, like neck shaft angle? Say, we may say that, okay, the neck shaft angle of the patient is 128. So, okay, develop that particular implant of 128 neck shaft angle, and just say that this care is better than the standard implant, which is available based on the, say, available on the set, which is having a 120-degree angle, suppose. So, what I would like to tell you here is that we need to rather adopt such methodology and slowly capture the market, which is dominated by the company from the developed country. But let me now tell you more interesting thing. The first thing about the customization of the implant, which I'm going to talk about, is the case study that we have done in Nagpur with the orthopedic surgeons and the plastic surgeon. So there you can see here, this is the customized implant for the TMJ. They call it as a temporomandibular joint for pony ankylosis. Now this particular case is the patient. She was suffering from pony ankylosis and was not in a position to open her mouth. So what we have done, if you look at again my cursor, these are the disease model, and we have rather taken this disease model and started thinking about how the implant is to be developed, which can actually help in movement of the jaws. So there, if you can see the third one, this is what we have actually created one clay model, because this clay model only helps me to interact with the doctor, and then doctor, he has very interestingly suggested many improvement in that. Then we have used the reverse engineering technique and got the CAD data. Then that CAD data is again fed into the rapid prototyping machine. We got the one design of the implant. Like that, around 5, 6 designs we have made, and finally one design we have accepted, of which is converted into the metallic implant, which is fitted into the patient body. I think you can see here the girl, she was not in a position to open the mouth. She now started opening the mouth by fitting this particular implant. All this complete detail is available in the article which we have published in Rapid Prototyping Journal, volume 17, 2011. Please, you can refer that, and it will be quite interesting for you to look at that how we have executed the whole process, and that too from engineering aspect. And this is the perfect, you can say, the amalgamation of the engineering and medical together. Now, the next one is customization of the implant for the mandible affected by a malignant tumor. So this is a cancer case, and we have done it with the and we are also presented in the Journal of Maxillofacial Surgery. An interesting case that we have done it, and we have fitted the metallic implant in the patient body. You can see the last one. This is the patient having this particular tumor. This tumor is removed, and now you can see that her facial structure also changed by fitting this particular implant. So this is how the tumor that we have resected. So this has been totally resected. Okay. So all this is actually the possible because of one R&D project that we have finished in 2014, from 2009 to 2013, wherein we have mentioned development and testing of customized joint replacement implant using layer manufacturing. So it is all our rather the work in this particular project which has helped us to develop, get good number of case studies, also live case studies, and that actually built a lot of confidence in us. But the next interesting point that we need to rather discuss here, the metallic implant, that means the implant which is fitted into the patient body, that which is the class 3 devices presently we are focusing our attention on. Now there you'll find that this metal is problematic, and that needs to be rather replaced by the bone. That is what they always talk about. So the next point in my talk is about no medical metallic implant, and I'm just writing out there no with so many yes inside. So it is both together, yes and no, what is to be accepted. Here the metallic implant is the gold standard, and still in orthopedic science, or in many countries in medical domain, still they are acceptable, because as I already mentioned to you, more and more case studies that you get it with the metallic implant success rate. That means, as I already mentioned to you, that the mobility of the patient, if at all you can restore by fitting such metallic implant, and the patient is mobile, say in case of suppose hip implant, or in case of the case study which I have already shown to you, that the lady is in a position to start eating, where otherwise she was on a liquid diet because of the problem in her temporomandibular joint. So this actually gives the confidence that okay, metallic implant is important, and because remember it is always subjected to the stresses, so metal is not going to fail so easily, and therefore everybody feels that it is a gold standard, and therefore they say yes. But then why do we say no? For that, let me show you this interesting picture. There is a condition called as stress shifting, and this is something very interesting for all of you to look at. Now, suppose you see the very first picture, again looking at my cursor, that if this hip implant breaks, then you can fit this metallic implant, as it is mentioned here, in the bone. Okay. So there are cancellous bone, and there are cortical bone, and all that. Now there is an issue with this particular so-called combination of metal and the bone. I'm just showing you here the the figure of a tennis player. Now tennis player, they use one hand extensively where the racket is rolled, and other hand is not used to that extent. It's only with one hand they play, and that too, the professional tennis players, they use the racket so aggressively, hitting the ball with a speed of 100 and even more than that kilometers per hour. So, when the X-ray of the two hands are taken, then what you'll find, that is what is being shown here, the bones in the hand where actually they hold the racket, that gets developed a lot rather than the other hand. So this is what is been seen as the property of the bone, that if the bone is used extensively, then it gets developed. But if you don't stress that bone, then it get resorbs. Resorption means slowly it will start degrading. Now that is what is called as the stress shielding. You are shielding the stress by putting the metallic implant. Why? Because now here, if you look at the hip joint, you'll find that the most of the load that will get carried by the metal, and the bone which is actually holding that particular implant, that is not carrying the load which is supposed to. Suppose it would not have been the metal, then the bone would have carried the whole the load. But that is not possible now because the bone is fractured now. So what happens? This bone which is surrounding that, there will be an issue that it will get resorbed. That means slowly degrading. And then what is the result? The result is the loosening of the implant. So you can see here, if you see this particular figure, there is a loosening, and this implant loosening is a big issue, and because this implant loosening will lead to rather failure of the implant in long run. That's what they always talk about, that the stress shielding is the major issue in case of a metallic implant. As I'm already mentioned here in this particular paragraph, that the most hip prostheses are made of solid metal and are stiffer than the femur. So the implant takes portion of load away from the bone. It reduces the stress in it. That's what we call as stress shielding. And per Wolff's law, bone remodel itself to adapt to external loading. Bone resorption, that's what I told you, and degeneration can occur since the load through it is reduced. So this thing is very important. If I show you in somewhat more detail from engineering aspect, you can see that the E for composite, that means when the metal is used along with the bone, then that equilibrium, that is the Young's model of equilibrium, generally we find it by the rule of mixture. So that is given as F1 into E trabecular. Trabecular is the name of the bone, the trabecular bone we talk about. F2 E cortical bone, E steel, and E bone cement, that is also being used to fit the implant into the patient in that particular part. So how much portion, volume portion, is occupied by whom in the whole system, which is actually contributing as far as the load is concerned. So that speaks about the load that is being carried out. You know very well, if you look at a trabecular or cortical bone, it's the bone. So their Young's modulus of elasticity is definitely far lower than the E steel. And so is the case with the bone cement. And therefore, most of the E is actually because of the E steel. And therefore, most of the load is being carried out by the steel. And that is what is the major problem, which we call it as the stress shielding. So what we say then in that case, this to be replaced by the another implant, which we called as a implant having the same stress level as that of the bone. Again, going back to the earlier one, if their E would have been the almost same as the cortical or the trabecular bone, or maybe somewhat higher than that, then that resorption would not have taken to that extent. If we would have done this by conventional manufacturing process, manufacturing of the implant by conventional manufacturing process, the E steel will be little more. But if you can think of the manufacturing by using the 3D printing, which is especially looking at the metal 3D printer, then what you will find that the metal 3D printer, this particular mm, implant will have the stress or the what's called as the value of the E matching with the board and all that, and ultimately this metal 3D, this particular metallic implant, which is fabricated by the metal 3D printer, would have been used extensively. But again, if you look it from the medical domain, or if you look it from medical literature point of view, bone is to be replaced by bone and not by the metal. So though we are trying our best by using a 3D printing to get the implant matching with the bone stress level, but ultimately what you'll find that if you can replace the bone by the bone, then you will find that there will not be much problem. And how do you look into that? How do you enter into this particular domain? So for that, I hope uh, you are um, uh, fully aware of. There is an interesting so-called the area which is now developing, which is called as a tissue engineering. And that is what is the next outline part of my talk, like bioplot, which is an extension of 3D printing. So, I already mentioned you about the 3D printing and all that. Now, what is an extension of the 3D printer is the bioplotter. And that is one of the state-of-the-art instrument we do have, where you can think of tissue. So now look at this figure. This is interesting. This slide is interesting. What is mentioned here in the slide? Scaffold fabrication is one of the earliest application of rapid prototyping, and now it becomes a more successful and mature area. Everybody is talking about the scaffold. Now look at this figure. Here it has been indicated that there is a major bone defect. Okay. Now in this scaffold, which is made of ceramic or the poly, if you can fit it here, hopefully the slowly the bony cells start developing there, and then that scaffold with the bone cells is the scaffold also, which is ceramic. Hopefully you have a wonderful application wherein, or the device wherein you can say that metallic implant is replaced by the scaffold loaded with the cells, bone cells. Now here, this scaffold fabrication is an important issue, and because that actually is the major focus in our research, and that is possible only by using a 3D bioplotter. Now, what is the 3D bioplotter talks? What exactly it does? It actually creates a scaffold with whatever the material you are using it for creating that particular scaffold. As I already mentioned to you here, the ceramic scaffold. So you can make a ceramic paste, and then it works exactly on the same principle of 3D printer, layer by layer manufacturing the scaffold. And ultimately that scaffold, if you sintered it, it will develop the strength, and that can be fitted into the body of the patient body, and you will find that slowly the bone cells will start generating in that particular scaffold. Nowadays, there is a lot of interest in the polymer scaffold also. And there is interest in the tissue engineering, because we would like to rather look for the scaffold which will be degradable. Why? Because the scaffold is loaded with the bone cells, and this scaffold, if at all it degrades, and then the rate of proliferation of the bone cells matches with the degradation, the complete implant made of bone is possible, which is actually our goal. So ultimately, the whole research is in that direction. My two of my researchers have done a wonderful work on the tissue engineering, and they got the PhD also in that. So one is about the bioprinted scaffold for fast osteointegration. That how fast the development proliferation of the cell is possible. So he has done a wonderful work on that. Various patterns he has actually looked into of the scaffold, and then he has selected the best one, which he can say that which he has proved that by using an animal study and all that, that the integration, osseointegration or the development of the cell starts very fast in this particular architecture. And all this is possible because of the 3D bioplotter. So in the 3D bioplotter, it is not only the scaffold of a specific shape which I have shown it here is possible, but customization is also possible, which is again, remember here, if you can link it with the customized implant, the same thing is focused here also. So customization is, now remember, this is very interesting for me to tell you about this particular aspect. Why? Because then when we have actually worked in this tissue engineering, we are fortunate enough to get associated with the medical college near Nagpur, that is DM Institute of Medical Sciences, which is located at Wardha. And the doctors, orthopedic surgeons, they have shown a lot of interest in it, especially the dental maxillofacial surgeon and the orthopedic surgeon. And we are lucky to rather put this in one of the patient, and that is what we call as a mandible reconstruction. So you can see here this particular surgical procedure. That's what we have shown it here. Like if you look at this particular part, this is what exactly is the part to be removed, and this is been removed. This is how the surgical guides that have been designed by us only, which has helped doctors to use it to cut that particular part. This is how the part has been removed, and in that we have actually fitted the scaffold where which is developed at VNIT. And you know, this fixation of the customized scaffold, remember here it is a customized scaffold that has been fitted into the patient body, and this is the wonderful case study that we have done. You know, this whatever I have shown to you here, sorry for the blood and everything being shown here, but this is really very interesting. This is interesting from the two aspects. One important point is that whatever we are discussing, they are all class 3 devices. And the customization. Now, for this, nothing is available on the shelf. You will have to develop it here only. And that too, this designing and development along with the manufacturing, everything has to be done in-house. And not only that, then even fixation of such implants needs to be executed by the doctors to whom you have consulted right from the beginning. So the medical fraternity and engineering fraternity, they are working very closely in this scenario. And that's what we always say, that is a perfect amalgamation of engineering and medical. Now here, let me tell you two interesting points. As I already mentioned to you, scaffold fabrication is done by one of my student as a part of his PhD project. And the first figure, wherein again, if you can look at the cursor, this is what is called as a surgical guide. That means where the doctor can use the scalpel and cut the portion which is required to be cut, where the customized scaffold is to be fitted. So cutting of that, or that is what we call as a resection. The resection of the mandible, this needs to be executed properly, because if you do it properly, then the implant can also be properly fitted. So this surgical guide also plays the dominant role. And one of my students, he has actually done wonderful work in that. And I'm going to talk about him very soon. But then he has completed his PhD also only on the surgical guide. So ultimately, what I would like to tell you, that these class 3 devices, whatever we are talking about, they are very important as far as the additive manufacturing is concerned. Secondly, the innovation is also equally important in that. And therefore, you know, we need to rather look at the innovation in the class 3 medical devices. No doubt, class 1 and class 2, lot of devices are in the field. But ultimately, here you will find that there is a tremendous scope of innovation in class 3 medical 3 devices, especially when you are using the 3D printing or additive manufacturing and this bioproduct. Now, let me take you to interesting part of our discussion, because that is again very nice thing to discuss, like the startup success stories. You know, about this startup, a lot of things are nowadays discussed. This is a buzzword nowadays. A lot of schemes are there and all that. So let me rather take you to this particular aspect also in my talk, because we are successful in getting this particular startup incubated in VNIT based on whatever the research that we have done. Now, I told you like customized implant. Now, when you talk about the startup success stories, then remember there has to be unmet needs. So the thing which I just told you, uh, think of the customized implant. That is what I told you about, which is shown there, the metallic implant. The customized scaffold, then even the surgical guide. That is what I say. They are all the unmet needs. And we have to see that these are the unmet needs from the medical fraternity. We have to rather fulfill that. And that will be possible if we rather think of startup. Now, why startup? Now, let me tell you an interesting thing here about the startup first, and then we will enter into what we have in the field where we are successful. Now, manufacturing industry is customer centric, as everybody is aware of, and the innovation and comfort forms the major parameter where you will have to focus more nowadays in manufacturing industries in order to see this, in order to look at the sustainability. The innovation and comfort is important, and what we say that in order to see that there is more and more innovation and more products that is coming out of that, we need to focus on high-end knowledge. That is what we call as the research. What is the idea? Idea is now, or rather the focus is on innovative and tailor-made product is the need of an hour. So everybody wants an innovative product. Everybody wants tailor-made product that suits to that customer. So that is what is the need of an hour. And if that is the case, our conventional industries or the traditional factories, which are actually based on the mass production, this is not possible. And that's a big no for this. You can't do that in this. So what you need to do, you have to look for the startup. That means a unit which satisfies the requirement where the innovation of the product is possible. At the same time, tailor-made product is also possible. So that is what they talk about the startup. So startup is the need of an hour today. Now, this is what exactly is indicated by Nandan Nilekani, who is the CEO of the Infosys, in one of the interview that is published in the Economic Times in August 2020. And I have actually highlighted it also just to show you that this is what I got it. And for your comfort, I'm just writing down what is the question that has asked to him and how he has answered. What he said, he has been asked the question, do you think the future for India will be where more small players also compete? He has wonderfully answered that. He said that I am of the firm belief that it is not about few companies creating millions of jobs, but millions of companies creating a few jobs each. That is what I see as the future. I'm really impressed with whatever he has said. That's why I just shown it in the red color, that it is not about a few companies creating the millions of jobs, but millions of companies creating a few jobs each. Just don't think of the traditional companies creating more jobs. It's impossible for them because they have been set up with the mass manufacturing. Now, you can't simply look at the companies big like Tata Motors and L&Ts and maybe big companies and thinking that the millions and millions of jobs are coming out of that. Just impossible. And remember here, the job seekers are more because there are more graduates coming up, which is a good picture. So when more job seekers are there, more graduates are coming, and those who are demanding more and more jobs, this is only the solution. What is indicated by him? Millions of companies creating a few jobs each. That means if we can have the more and more startups which are coming up with the innovative ideas, and if they create a few jobs, then it is as good as solving the problem of the job seekers. So if you look at the Economic Times survey that is been done at 2020 on the startup, interesting point here, whatever has been indicated, I wish to rather show it by clicking it by the right mark. 4,70,000 jobs are created by more than 39,000 startups. And more the startups, more the jobs will come up. And that is what exactly we need to look at. So startup is the need of an hour. Now, when you talk about the startup, the very first thing that comes in our mind, oh, whether I have the sufficient finance to go with that. Whether, the finance is the major hurdle. That is what we always look at. And that is always used as a scapegoat. And then we say, okay, I would have done this one, I would have run this company and this and that, but I was not having finance that time and all that. So that is used as a scapegoat. Remember here, there are good number of opportunities available nowadays through the government agencies. One of the thing is the BIRAC, the Biotechnology Industrial Research Assistance Policy. And they offer what is called as a big grant. They talk about the Biotechnology Ignition Grant. So this Biotechnology Ignition Grant, big, is a flagship scheme of BIRAC, which recognizes and invests in these new innovative ideas in the biotechnological sector. And the idea should have the clear potential to translate into the commercial product technologies. And it supports the individual. Remember here, this is more important. If you look at my cursor again, from ideation to proof of concept, that means if you know the technology readiness level of the product, which actually speaks from the technology readiness level 1 to technology readiness level 9. So you know that 1 to 4 is the is important. It's a crucial stage where the concept of the product is developed. There you need the finance, which is provided by the big, and that is to the tune of around 50 lakhs. I'm happy to tell you that two of my researchers, they have actually got this grant and they have started the company also. And another one, he got the IIGP grant and he has also started a company. So three of my researchers, they have started a company. So let me quickly show you the two of them who are actually working the class 3 devices. Dr. Sandeep Dahake, he is a big grantee and he is now CEO of the Precisor Limited. And Dr. Pranav Sapkar, he is the IIGP 2.0 award winner and he is the CEO of the Lucidi plant. So now I wish to just run this video. I'm not sure whether everyone can hear this, but if they can do it, I think it will be interesting. Only 3 minutes one. I just yeah. So
Voice
yeah,
is not
just
audible, sir.
voice is not audible. That's what actually I asked him, like whether anything is to be set for the this. I think I had to 1 minute. Let me check if I can do that with the stop sharing. Yeah, that's what I asked him. Connect to video system. With this, whether this will do, if I'm not wrong. No, it's not. Anyhow, Dr. Dinesh, is there any methodology by which you can see that, or I can set
That's what I'm
things?
checking, sir. Like privilege and content.
I think there has to be some.
Because everything was embedded video, it was playing.
This is actually I'm running it from directly from the internet.
Okay.
So I think if you need to rather do some.
You have been assigned with all the controls.
Yeah, 1 minute. Automatically optimize or whether share your computer video.
Sir, if window
yeah.
share is there, window share option is there, then please check whether it is there.
Yeah. I think I just make it this on. Don't share computer. Now I mentioned share the link with the channel. Okay. Anyhow, let's see with this whether this will work. And if this works, then that's fine.
Happy to check
can
you.
you hear
Yeah,
that?
yeah, now audible, sir.
Yes, that's fine.
The doctorate degree for startup. At CAD/CAM Center, Maharashtra, under R&D project, Biomedical Engineering and Technology Incubation Center, nicknamed BETIC, 3 startups are incubated in the field of innovative medical devices. All 3 startups are based on the deployment of the research carried out at PhD level by the researchers. Sandeep, Pranav, Neha, Mahesh, Prashant are all BETIC researchers who are instrumental in taking this thing forward.
My name is Dr. Pranav Satkal. I am the Executive Director at Lucid Implants. Lucid Implants is a medical technology company which provides personalized surgical solutions. At Lucid, we design, develop, manufacture, market and sell craniomaxillofacial and neurosurgical implants. We are the first company in India to provide 3D printed peak implants, which is polyether ketone implants, which are specifically designed and manufactured as per patient's unique anatomy. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Okoiko Solution Private Limited, a healthcare startup incubated at CMU Unity Nagpur. Our company is devoted to solve the problem of glaucoma patient by its innovative research product, that is glaucoma screening device, which can measure intraocular pressure without need of anesthesia, without touch to the cornea also, without any complicated procedures. Patient itself can have this portable IOP intraocular pressure measuring device by which they can measure the intraocular pressure throughout the day, anywhere in between the morning, evening, anytime, any place. So it is a best and revolutionary approach to measure intraocular pressure and monitor their IOP.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sandeep Dahake, CEO and founder of startup company Precisearch Private Limited, CIBN VNIT Nagpur. Basically, we are working in the domain of custom medical devices for various complex surgeries. 3D printed anatomical models are very useful for surgery planning and mock surgery before the actual surgery. We can fabricate these types of models within very less cost and in variety of materials. For the fabrication of these types of models require CT, CBCT or MRI scan, image processing software like Mimix and Thematic, and rapid prototyping technique. These type of models are very useful to reduce the surgery time and improve the accuracy of complex surgeries like dental surgery, CMF surgery, total hip replacement and total knee replacement surgery. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and hope you like our team to engineer the doctorate degree for startup.
So let me now go back to my again stop sharing, then just one more share and just setting up the and now I hope I can share with my screen So I think you can see my screen, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm happy that with some here and there jugaad, it is possible for me to play the video. Otherwise, I was a bit disturbed that if you can't hear, then there will be a problem. But these two guys, Dr. Sandeep Dahake and Dr. Pranav, they have actually rather started a company related to the class 3 medical devices. So I'm really happy to tell you that the device that they are presently working on, the first one is the Precisearch, that is the surgical guide, and this one is available and is almost ready, and he is doing wonderful work to see that this particular product is available to the medical fraternity, and this gives ease in surgery for many doctors. So this is something wonderful he's working on, and I'm happy to tell you that he has actually filed the 2 patents, and he got a Mimics Innovation Award for this particular product of €1,000. So this is what exactly makes the whole ecosystem vibrant. Another interesting point is like lucid implants. Now, I would like to just run that, though no voice is required. It is just to show you what exactly the lucid implants this particular site talks about. So I would like to take you directly to their story. That what is their story, and just like to show you that how interestingly they would like to they have actually worked in this. So this is a lucid implant. They are all working in the tissue engineering side. And if you look at their story, it is really very interesting. Like 2015, he was working under me for the tissue engineering project on the 3D bioplotter. Then they have interacted with many surgeons that time, with Dr. Nitin in Germany, and then Dr. Prashant has worked in the John Hopkins in USA. What you'll find that later on, both of them decided to find these lucid implants. Then Pranav and Prashant, they have shown it at Medic IIT Bombay, which is actually our regular feature under the biomedical engineering technology BETIC program. Then they got the IIGP 2.0 awards in 2019. Then team, they are after winning this, they have also made the 3D experience in global pitch. I'm happy to inform you that I have inaugurated their startup, and now in 2021 and beyond, they are what thinking about. So it's interesting for me to just tell you about the what next. They have mentioned like so far, this is very important, and I take pride in reading this. So far, we have positively impacted and transferred over 200 lives with our patient-specific implant solution. I had just shown you two or three, one just to start with where we have actually worked with. But now they have made it 200 lives. And we anticipate to impact and transfer 3,500 more lives in the next 2 years. That is what they are aiming at. A wonderful approach. And that's what they say. Our success is measured in the patients we reach and lives we save and improve. The total satisfaction they get it after designing the implant, manufacturing the implant, and finally fitting into the patient body. This is what they say. Excited to know what we are internally working on to accelerate adoption 3D printing in healthcare for driving evidence-based care. Let's know here project deform. So you can interact with these guys. That's not an issue. But what is important for me to tell you that they have done wonderfully well, and this is what exactly we have to always look at. The startup is the ultimate aim. If you innovate new things in the medical sciences, especially in the class 3 medical devices, and think of the 3D printing. And that is what exactly I would like to focus your attention on. So finally, the conclusion. I think the time is almost up for our lecture. The conclusion, I always take it as the one which should pass some message rather than saying that, okay, this has been done, this has been told to you and all that. So I wish to rather show the figure or the picture is worth 1,000 words. And that's why I'm just showing you the conclusion by only writing 2 points, like make in India for medical implant. That means class 3 medical devices, think of everything being done at India. We have already just started with that. And number 2 is important, startup as technology led innovation. So, if you look at this particular figure, wherein you can see the patent, you can see the PhD, you can see the research. So if the students are involved anywhere in it, whether they are patenting their innovation or whether they are doing any research or whether they are doing PhD and all that, everything should aid with this startup. Then what, because see, when you talk about the high-end knowledge of the research, that means it is something innovative. So if it is innovative, then naturally you should mold it in a such a way that it should turn out to be in the startup. And I'm happy to tell you that in the March first week, 1st March to 5th March, I run a symposium, organized a symposium online, which is titled as Engineer Your Research for Startup. I have used the word engineer as a verb, not as a noun. And I told him, like, whatever the research you do, mold it in a such a way that it should be possible for you to enter into the startup domain. Because again, taking you back to my earlier slide, that where I told you that startup is the only solution for creating more and more jobs. And job seekers needs more startups. Okay. So let me tell you interesting point here that this is our CAD/CAM center. Now you can see some construction going on at the time. Now that is for our proposed so-called Betic VNIT, wherein we are constructing the one more floor, and there we will be creating an ecosystem for the startup. Those who we are even thinking of offering the postdoc position to the students, those who have finished their PhD, and then they can come there for 6 months and work on their research only to see that it will be molded for startup, and they can prepare for getting the big grant like 50 lakhs and all that. So that is what is one of, even those who have got the patent, it's not that the only PhD student, but those who have got a patent file or even the patent published, patent granted is always welcome. So can we now serve as a facilitator for them so that they can apply for such grants? And such type of an ecosystem, we will be more interested in creating, which is called as virtual incubation. So we are in the process of doing that. That will be over by end of this year at the construction, and we will definitely operate it from end of this year. And it will be my pleasure to invite all of you at Nagpur to see what we are doing, because that is what I always used to say, that I like that particular advertisement of that Ghadi detergent bar. They say that pehle istemal karo fir vishwas karo. Exactly in the same way, please do visit our CAD/CAM center and experience whatever I say. Believe that whatever I say, and then with this interaction only we are going to progress, because ultimately the dreams of our Prime Minister like Atmanirbhar Bharat, or our ex-president like developing status to develop status and all that, all this thing will possible if you work in this particular way. Okay. So thank you very much for your patience hearing, and I wish to rather end my lecture here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was such a motivation and inspirational lecture, because, like, when even IITs are running and chasing their dream, you have already proved and you have explained the success story of the students.
Thank you. Thank you,
Like,
Dr. Dinesh.
being from platform of NIT, we feel more honored, like, because people always have this mindset IIC and IIT do top level research where NITs are still hanging behind. But you have been a role model for all of us over here, proving that the thinking is completely the reverse side. Like,
Yeah.
now getting startups in IIT and IIC is not that easy, but you have made around 3 startups and you have just won the success story as well. Hope the audience would have got the same energized what I got right now.
Oh,
Now
great, great, great. Really happy.
we'll move on to the question session, sir. If participants, you have any queries, you can raise to Professor.
Yeah. They can use the chat box. It will be my pleasure to interact with all of them. This is what exactly nowadays is very much required. Yeah, I always used to tell my student, like, teaching learning process has changed a lot. Lot of information is available nowadays on the internet. So
Yeah.
what is important that we discuss more and more about that information so that the knowledge gets generated. Otherwise,
Exactly.
if we don't discuss, simply having that information makes no sense. Difficult to develop the knowledge.
Exactly,
Yeah,
sir.
Exactly, sir. Well said, it is. Yeah, yes, sir. You can proceed with the question.
yeah. I think my email address is already known to everybody.
Yeah.
Or I will just write it down on the chat box so that you can send me the email. And this is my personal, my official is already available on the net. But I just type my email address there. It is very simple. AMK stands for my initial, ME stands for mechanical engineering, and 2002 is the year when I created this email, and
Okay.
at yahoo.com. So you can just send me the mail on this. Even I think my mobile number is also, I can type it here. so that you can send me anything. So this is my mobile number 94236 85194.
Okay.
So all
I
participants
think
can
like
note down.
today you'll be getting a lot of calls from the participants because like this is something which is always there in dream of most of the innovators. We have to
Yeah,
run our
yeah,
own company.
that's true.
It's
That's true.
really more
Yeah.
it's really more inspiring for us. But
Yeah,
since
and
we have
actually,
been,
Dr.
yeah,
Dinesh, I wish to tell
yes,
you
sir,
one more thing, one more interesting point.
yes,
Like
sir,
I told you during the lecture itself that we have run that online symposium, engineer your
yes,
research
sir,
for product, that is available
yeah,
on the YouTube. So it is
okay, sir,
officially loaded by the VNIT on the YouTube. It
okay,
goes
sir,
for 5-6 hours, so you take a free time whenever you have, and you can see
yeah,
that. And then after that online symposium, what I realized that the finance is the major hurdle whenever
exactly,
anybody
sir.
thinks about a startup. And
Hmm.
that's why what I have done, like ABC of the finance for startup, that's another online interaction. I have just
Okay,
recently on 20th of August, we
okay,
have organized that with one very good person, resource person, Mr. Kanchan Kulkarni, who is a regional head of ICSEI. And he has
okay,
wonderfully explained that how this finance is to be taken care and all that.
okay, sir,
So I think that also I'm thinking of loading it on the YouTube, or I will pass it
yeah,
on to you. You can then go through
yeah,
that.
sure, sir, we'll circulate. We'll be
It's
more
only
because
it's only for 2 hours, not more than
yeah,
that. So when you have ample of time, you can refer our YouTube, or when but 2 hours you can definitely go for this ABC of finance. So that is fear of finance. I wish to rather just take it out from the person those who are interested. I I I
okay,
I used to I ask him like a fresh student from who has done his BTech and coming from a middle income family, how we can think of entering into this domain where you only talk about the finance and all that. So he has
exactly, sir.
wonderfully answered that. So you can just go through it. That will be fine.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sir.
definitely, sir.
There's the
We
chat
will go
box
through.
like from
Yeah, I think someone
like
has
it's more,
written like,
yeah,
it's my pleasure to hear
listen to,
you. Your ways teaching is so nice, just like playing. Oh, great. I
yeah,
want to join MTP program, VNIT. I will come to see your lab. Oh, please do come. Nilbo Paul, I think Nilbo
uh,
Paul has written. Please do come. It's my standing invitation to all the participants. Please do come. It will be my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
correct. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful
Yeah,
session. We are like
sure, sure.
uh,